and welcome to The Dime Detective, where the goal is to read more and worry less. I'm Ainsley, and today I want to share with you all of the books that I read in January. Now, by all, I do mean the 3 books that I read in January, because that is quite a bit for me, and my goal is to definitely read more this year and to really be more enthralled with it. I have a lot of issues with focus, so even though I love reading, it can be difficult for me. And so I'm really diversifying my palette and reading things that are outside of my comfort zone and trying new genres. And this month specifically was really me dipping my toe into the pool of many and many genres. Now, my typical genre that I go for was mainly mysteries, and I love also a lot of classics, and there's a few contemporary stuff in there as well, but I'm definitely getting a lot more into fantasy and trying, some different modern books as well. And so the first one that I picked up this month was on my TBR for approximately 6 months maybe. I know I heard about this book for the first time on the Book Leo here on YouTube, and I ended up picking it up at a store here in Louisville, and that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Now, when I first heard this book mentioned, I knew that I had to get my hands on it, and I really wanted to read it, but I didn't get around to it until this month. But I'm so glad that I finally give it a read, because I am absolutely in love and enthralled with this book and wish I could go back and read it again. The main character, Oliver, is not this perfect guy who takes us through this story. He is a flawed individual, a flawed character like those people around him, and the characters are not all particularly likable, but they're also not unlikable. And I find myself drawn to them, but relating to them as well. I did go to theater school myself. I've been in theater since I was young. And so for me, this was very appealing, and I think that it can also be very appealing for people who are not in theater. But it is, there are a lot of passages and moments in where characters talk to each other in words from Shakespeare, so it might seem a bit daunting to some people, but I don't think it's so overwrought that you would have to have read Macbeth to understand what they're saying when they speak in Macbeth, or when the play that they're putting on Macbeth, Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, how that mirrors their real life. Now, this is told only from this perspective of Oliver, but it is told in 2 timelines, and that is the prologue timelines, which exist in a few acts. And that takes place 10 years in the future, when Oliver is being released from prison after 10 years, and then is being told when they are in their 4th year, and the majority of the plot takes place during their 4th year at this college that is specific to Shakespeare. I am head over heels for this dark academia tale, and if you are somebody who wants to get into more modern stuff but you love classics, if you are a fan of Bridesheads Revisited like myself, then you will probably really enjoy this book, and vice versa. If you want to get into classics, I think you would really like Brideshead Revisited if you loved this one. The next book I read in January is a fantasy novel by Alexandra Christo, and it is To Kill a Kingdom. To Kill a Kingdom follows 2 people in 2 To Kill a Kingdom follows 2 perspectives, and that is of our Siren, who is also known as the Prince's Bane. She takes the hearts of princes, and then a prince who also happens to be a siren killer. And just hearing that plot, you can pretty much tell what's going to happen here. But this is a really exciting and fast-paced story. If you are into pirates and anything nautical or mythology, anything of that kind, you would really love this. It's also a great way to get into fantasy, because as you can see, it's not quite thick as a lot of fantasy books are. And if you just want a much easier, or I don't want to say easier, but shorter to read fantasy book, then this one is for you. I truly enjoyed this book, and it's also great to read out loud with other people. The last but certainly not least book on this list is a romance, and one that I never thought I was going to get my hands on. Like, I would even thinking that, oh, I might, dip my toes into the romance realm. I might get some rom-coms to read. I never thought this was going to be one of them because generally what people were saying about it I didn't find particularly appealing. But eventually I decided, you know what, I'm going to pick that book up because a lot of people who didn't even read romance and people I watched here on BookTube were saying how good this book was and how much they truly enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, I'm so glad I picked it up because it really is like a warm hug on a cold, hard day. And that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Now, they are an incredible author who composed this amazing story about the first son of the United States and his relationship with the Prince of England, Prince Henry of England, and Alex is the guy who is telling us this story. It isn't told from his point of view, but it kind of feels like it because he is the one who's really coming to terms with his sexuality and beginning to realize his bisexuality. And I love that he gets to do that in his rivals to lovers romance with the Prince of England. And it really goes into how this relationship is already difficult. It can already be difficult to come out to yourself and come out to your family, but then when you add the fact that they're doing this in front of the public eye and it's England and America, and his mom is the first female president who also happens to be a divorcee from Texas, and her ex-husband is a Mexican senator from Mexico. Her children are the children of an immigrant, and it's just a great tale of two people coming together and helping each other through a difficult time, and a part of self-discovery and how coming of age can happen at really any time and point in our life, and the relationships between not only Henry and Alex, but the relationships they have with people in their family, the relationship they have with the country they're in. And I think this is just one of the best books that's ever been written recently. I don't know, I'm so enthralled with it, and I can't believe that I love it as much as I do, because for me it was just incredibly unexpected to be so hypnotized by a romance. Now, this is a rom-com and it's freaking hilarious. It's also very sexy and sweet, and I love how Alex calls him sweetheart, and I can just hear it. And it was really like watching this really amazing rom-com, and I'm not a big rom-com person either. I don't watch a lot of romance movies, but this was literally a movie inside of my head, and I'm so excited to read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. They are an incredible writer, and to have this incredible story about a bisexual awakening and the relationship they have with somebody and their kind of, I think their first love, is just, it warmed my heart and it made me feel so great and so comforted. And I'm so glad that this book was written and that people get to come of age reading this book. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel and watching the books I read in January. I am so thankful to you for viewing this. If you enjoyed this book, join this book. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, please feel free to hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And subscribe and ring that bell to be notified every single time I post. Let me know what you read in January and your thoughts on it by commenting below, or if you have any recommendations and think if I liked this, maybe I'll like that. I would love to hear from you. You can also find me on any of my socials linked in the description box below. Bye. Thank you.